on to Monday Night Football. The San Francisco 49ers were the lone undefeated team. They were playing last night as a 6-point favorite against the Seattle Seahawks. Russell Wilson and the Seahawks were having none of it, though. They came back. They were up 21-0. The 49ers come all the way back from down 21-10 to tie the game, get it to overtime. I thought Jimmy Garoppolo played okay. I thought he played well enough to win. I do think he's an interesting case study, and I just think we need to see more of him to really solidify himself as one of the top-tier quarterbacks. I think you can be a little bit misguided if you just say, oh, they're undefeated and it's because of Garoppolo. I don't think that's the case. It's because of their defense. It's because of some of the weapons they have, and they clearly missed Kittle last night, and Emmanuel Sanders going down didn't help at all. But I think on the flip side, Russell Wilson needs to be considered as not just elite, but maybe the best quarterback, period, in the NFL.
Hot take there, bud.
It is, though.
No,
tell me who's better.
It is. I agree.
I think there's so you can make an argument for some, but why do we never put Russell Wilson in that conversation is beyond me, because he carries his team consistently to victories in unlikely spots.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he was drafted as low as he was, and we talk about the stigma all the time about or surrounding guys. The interesting part of that is Tom Brady was drafted really low too.
Right.
And there's never really a stigma attached to him in that regard. You know what I mean?
But I think he did. I mean, he's been in the conversation for 10 years.
Nah, this guy's been in a conversation for how long?
But he only has one Super Bowl. You know, and he has two. And
here's
the difference.
He's accounted for so much. Last year,
agreed.
He accounted for 60-some% of their offense.
Agreed. There was one year it was like 80.
It's ridiculous.
It was even more a few years ago. I think it's a couple things. One, I think because of the way he played, which is different. When he was in his rookie year and second year, he was a game manager, right? They didn't ask him to do a lot because they had the Legion of Boom. They didn't need him. But that is totally not the case now. He has multiple times has put this team on his back and carried them to victories, where I think he is in that conversation for who is the best quarterback in the league. I'd put him like right now. If you said, who do you want? I think a lot of people might think this is a hot take, but if you look at consistency,
there's
with
nobody you'd rather
it's him
have.
over Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
I think Patrick Mahomes is the one other young quarterback.
But I
take
take experience. I take Russ's experience just fractionally over Patrick Mahomes' brilliance and playmaking ability. Right?
Right.
I would. And I would agree with you with every other quarterback. And I was just writing them all out, like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Drew Brees. I think if you gave me him and them at this point in time, I'm taking Russ every time.
If it was, so here was the always kind of the out in the conversation was, well, it's only 1 year only. So then you might say Drew Brees or Tom Brady just in a year where, but I think even this year, I would take Russell Wilson above them, even for just 1 year. If you just need a 1 year run.
Right now. And going forward, there's not even a question. Right. He's the youngest of the bunch.
Right.
So it's not even a question of whether you're taking him over those guys, because, at some point, that ceases to look like Tom Brady or Drew Brees or Aaron Rodgers. And I want to touch on it because I think it's interesting, man. Like, you talked about Tom Brady. When Tom Brady came in with the Patriots, he was managing games.
Yeah.
He wasn't the Tom Brady you see now where he's orchestrating offense and throwing it all over the field. He managed offense until, he was seasoned enough to take over the offense, which is the same thing that happened to Russell Wilson, right? You manage it. You got a defense. You do what we need you to do to put our team in the best position to win. And once you've grown in that space and you are, proficient enough at the position, we'll hand over the keys to you and you do what you do with it.
Right. I wonder how much different this conversation would be if Russell Wilson had got the second Super Bowl. Remember the interception that he threw on the goal line? I wonder if all of a sudden we would have this conversation and nobody would even blink and say, oh, that's a hot take. They would just say, yeah. Because for whatever reason, up to this point, it's always been the elite. It's always Tom Brady, Drew Brees, and Aaron Rodgers before Peyton retired.
Sure.
And now it's, okay, well, maybe he's in that conversation. I don't think there is no maybe. And I think he may be the best in the league. And the other thing that Joey pointed out to me was that Russell Wilson has never really had anything close to Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce or Kareem Hunt in the backfield. Whatever weapons that Patrick Mahomes had last year when he's throwing 50 touchdowns, Russell Wilson has never really had that.
No, he never has any weapons.
Which I would say is kind of Aaron Rodgers is in a similar type of situation. He's never really had
but for a while,
top in the
for
league.
a while he had early he had some weapons.
He
though,
did.
He had weapons early. Take last night's game, for example, right? And take Russell Wilson and put him on like San Francisco's team with the weapons that they have and the defense that they have.
He wins that game.
It's not even a close game. We're not even in overtime there, right?
Right. Agreed. So then it comes down to, you and I both think he's one of the tops in the NFL, period. then it becomes the question of, all right, well, the MVP race is starting. I think it's an awesome race, by the way. Some years, last year it was Patrick Mahomes. You could see it from November. You're like, all right, he's done because he got hurt this year. I still think Patrick Mahomes is in the conversation. Obviously, being missing 2 games kind of hurt him, but statistically, he was back right to where he left off, even though their team lost. But I do think it's starting to get whittled down where you still have Russell, and I would probably rank these.
Boy, if you don't get Kirk
maybe
Cousins
in
off that
order.
screen.
No. He might even be ahead of Kirk Cousins. What are you talking about?
You better get Kirk Cousins off my screen.
The guy got the player of the month for the month of October, and guess what he did? You missed it yesterday. Guess what he did? He went on the road in prime time and beat a team with a better than 500 record.
Beat a terrible Cowboys team.
No, not terrible.
Beat a terrible Cowboys team.
I still think he's a long shot, but I think he's in the conversation. But I really think you could make a case that any 6 of these guys, Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Christian McCaffrey, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, or Kirk Cousins, I think any one of these could still win this thing.
I disagree. I think that it's Russell Wilson and Lamar Jackson's. This is provided they don't just fall off a cliff with their team.
But that's the thing. It's been so up and down. We've had other guys like Christian McCaffrey was there and loses, and it's like, oh, we forget about him. And then next week he'll go off and he vaults himself. Let's say Lamar Jackson comes in a game and he doesn't have it, like he falls off. It's been very – It's been an interchangeable top 3.
It is. It's been a fluid conversation. But I think the top 2 are solidified. I think Christian McCaffrey is the dark horse. Like, he can get in there to potentially win it. Those other names, yes, you can make a case for it. But I don't think they're going to give it to Patrick Mahomes again. He had the two games off, and their team isn't really doing what everyone expected that team to do. And I don't think that Aaron Rodgers is on pace. I can't even believe you have Kirk Cousins on the screen, even though he won the Player of the Month.
Are still 8-2. Like
he's not doing enough. He's not doing enough. Their defense is better. Yeah, he's not doing enough. They're not asking him to be out there just winging it all around and accounting for enough of that offense for him to be in the MVP conversation.
Now, the one player I didn't have on there, and it could be an omission and somebody that can play their way back in there, is Deshaun Watson, who for the Texans, 6-3, 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I still think he can play his way back into that. I'd put him like at the last spot with Kirk Cousins and Deshaun Watson.
Right.
Depends on how the finish goes. They could play their way back into it there. And probably Deshaun Watson deserves to be over Kirk Cousins as well. I think there is the Heisman, we have Heisman moments where you have to do something really special. Deshaun Watson does that almost every week.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins didn't have to do it just statistics alone. He's not going to make any circus plays. And even the other night's a good example. Dalvin Cook went off. I mean, the Minnesota Vikings really are only going to go as far as Dalvin Cook takes.
Sure.
Not really Kirk Cousins,
correct.
Which is why I think it's still a long shot for him to get in that MVP discussion this year.
I do think if you break down, like if you go Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, I would give it to Lamar Jackson. I would give it to Russell Wilson, but I think people will give it to Lamar Jackson.
He's fun,
sense.
Man. He's
because
dynamic.
He has all of those like moments where you're like,
yeah, what he's done to that team and made them relevant and made them good. And you saw it was really a cool moment. I saw it. I think Joey texted it to us last night when John Harbaugh came over to him. That was really a cool moment when he came over there on the field, on the bench, and was like, "Hey, man, you are changing the game." Like, and you were doing that was really cool.
Right.
It wasn't fake. It didn't feel like he was propping up his quarterback. It seemed like a coach and his quarterback. And I love Lamar Jackson's response. We haven't done anything yet.
Right.
I want to win a Super Bowl first. Love that response there.